ahead, sir. Thank you for bringing it up. I'm glad you know about our part of the state.
Thank you for coming to Otago.
Thank you.
And my question is, for 30 years, can you give me your honest opinion why the government has ignored enforcing our immigration laws, basically?
Yeah. I'd have to say for 22 years, because the last immigration law passed in 1986. I'm not equivalent about the 30 years, I just want to be exact. I suppose that it comes from this difficulty of proving a case in court. And it may not be this simple, so I don't want to say this is the only answer to your question, but I'm trying to think of an answer. The 1986 immigration law had three parts to it that we thought was the three-legged stool that would solve the immigration problem. And I voted for it, so I could be part of the problem, but I'll only consider myself part of the problem that I voted for amnesty once. I won't vote for it again. But amnesty was one of them, and the requirement that if you're hiring somebody, they have to give you documents to prove that you're in the country, and then employer sanctions like a $10,000 fine if you violate the law. This middle one is the reason, is the one I want to concentrate on. So we did not anticipate, let's say, a whole industry of fraudulent document making. So you can get a passport that's a fraudulent one that looks so real. Okay, I'm an illegal person, but I've got one of these fraudulent documents. I come to you, I show it to you. It looks real to you. You don't have any reason to believe I'm illegally in the country. And I show that to you. You hire me. Okay, then they find out I'm illegal. Then you think, well, you would be prosecuted. But the law says knowingly hire an illegal alien. That one word, knowingly, gives employers a lot of cover so that they aren't prosecuted. It's part of the reason why if people up in Postville are prosecuted, they'll probably be prosecuted for an unsafe working place more than they'll be prosecuted for hiring illegal aliens, because if they have these documents that look real. So then if it's difficult to prove, then it's difficult to arrest, and the idea was we were going to put the focus on the employer, see, in the 86 law. Well, then I suppose there's some, I mean, this is more difficult to prove, to answer your question about why. Then, of course, it kind of became that there were some workers needed, or at least government thought some workers were needed, so I suppose there was kind of a blind eye turn to some extent. And then another thing is, half of the people that are illegally in the country came here legally and overstayed their visas, see, and not having a computer capability of tracking and keeping track of where people are, you see. So then about, I said 22 years, so you go back 5 years, we started to talk about passing new immigration laws. So somewhere between maybe 5 years ago and 10 years before that, I suppose, is the period of time you're talking about not enforcing the law. But I think 5 years ago there was a realization that the law had to be changed, but it hasn't been changed yet because of this issue of amnesty. One political party wants amnesty because they feel that that's a whole millions of people, once they become citizens, will vote for that party. The other party wants to not encourage more illegality, which we have learned for 20 years. We've done, because we've gone from 3 million to 12 million. See, so now you are. I know this is a spit in the ocean compared to the problems that, or the issue of 12 million people being here illegally. But you will find that in the last 2 or 3 years, there's been a dramatic uptick in the number of illegal aliens that are caught at the workplace and taken back home. And I suppose the biggest of those has been right here in Iowa that you read about. And those are a few hundred, but I mean they add up to a few 10,000s over the course of a year that you wouldn't have seen numbers like that more than 3 or 4 years ago. See, going back for a long time. Then there's another thing in place, and that's we used to have what we call a catch and release policy. You come here illegally, they catch you, they release you with the promise that when you have a hearing you're going to return, and you know they get lost, they don't return. So we somehow it must have been thought that that hearing was necessary for the presumed constitutional rights of the people that were here illegally, and later on not presumed to be necessary because we don't have the catch and release policy now. If we catch people close to the border, they can be taken out of the country, you see. Now, when you talk about the border, you're talking just about Mexico in most cases. Only 55% of the people cross that border illegally. The other 45% come here either legally and stay, or else they come through other ports of entry, which could be an airport where you wonder, well, why wouldn't you catch them there? But people walk across the borders in other places as well, probably Canada, but mostly Mexico. And then you do have the building of the fence going on now, and that will be completed next year. And then at least the fence itself, the virtual fence, may not be completed by next year, but at least they're moving forward on that. And then you have an increase in the Border Patrol. So I guess more recently, more enforcement, do away with the catch and release policy, more Border Patrol, and the fence, trying to do with an existing law what we can do. But next year there's going to be a major change in the law, but I'm afraid regardless of who's elected president, you're still dealing with this issue of amnesty. On everything else, there's not a whole lot of disagreement. You know, the fence, the Border Patrol, verification through the Social Security system, increasing penalties for workers, and the guest worker program, things of that nature. There don't seem to be a lot of dispute.